Lindsay Lohan had one of the worst breakdowns in Hollywood history. Trying to escape her fate in jail, she turned to the one person the world believed could fix anything. Oprah Winfrey. Lindsay walked in hoping for healing. Only 4 days after rehab, Oprah decided to make a show on Lindsay and shove her under the spotlight. But was that Oprah's plan all along?
I ask you anyway, are you a virgin? How could you ask me that question?
What size are you, by the way?
Size?
Yeah, I was
I'm really sure.
You're not sure?
Girls and, you know.
That's so interesting. That is so interesting. I'm like,
Because in Oprah's world, redemption came with ratings.
What is your drug of choice or drugs of choice? You're either awake or you're not.
and so you need to cut the bull. You really do. The series about your life was a wreck, you're the poster child for everything gone wrong, and you are here to say, this is how you do it. This is how you turn around. You got a whole team of people who are relying on you right now. You are not gonna be f***ing up.
With her image exposed and exploited by Oprah, it only made things worse.
And now to the latest trouble for star Lindsay Lohan.
She was under the influence of alcohol.
Third-degree assault and reckless driving with lying to police.
Part of a sentence that also includes 4 months in jail.
Take the f***ing camera. Go. Not everybody trying to hold on and save it and put up with this bull. Maybe there's not that much going on. Has anybody thought of that?
The year is 2013. Oprah Winfrey is the most powerful woman on television. Her name alone can make or break a career. So when Lindsay Lohan agreed to sit across from her, fresh out of rehab and on the brink of being blacklisted from Hollywood, everyone thought this was her last chance.
Before an interview, before all important interviews, I would always go into the green room and ask the guests, what is it you want from this?
Just to being honest and open and, you know, just me.
My intention is to serve as a path for you to be able to do that.
Thank you.
And so if I know that that's what you really want to do, I'm going to call you on it when you're not, when I feel that you're not.
Good.
I'm only interested in what is the truth.
Lindsay thought Oprah was on her side, but little did she know, Oprah had a history of trapping people.
I'm going to ask you this, and it's embarrassing for me to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are you a virgin?
What size are you, by the way?
Size?
Were you afraid of taking that role and being like typecast and people forever saying, are you not? Is he, honey? I don't know.
But one of the worst betrayals came after she helped her friend, actress Monique, win an Oscar. Oprah invited her on the show and asked her to speak about her childhood trauma.
Oprah Winfrey called us up and she said my brother wanted to come on the show and talk about him molesting me. She said, do you want to come on? I said, I don't want nothing to do with that cat. Now I begin to see commercials with my brother, my mother, my father, and my other brother.
When it was Lindsay's turn to sit across from Oprah, it quickly became clear she had no idea what she'd signed up for.
When you get the first DUI, is that a wake-up call?
A little bit. I don't think it was fully.
Okay, you're either awake or you're not. So were you awake? Was it a wake-up call?
Lindsay Lohan turned herself into LA police Thursday to face charges of driving under the influence. This is in connection with the Memorial Day weekend hit-and-run crash that sent her into rehab. Police say Lohan and 2 other adults were in her 2005 Mercedes when she lost control and crashed into a curb and shrubs on Sunset Boulevard. According to police, Lohan got into a second car and left the scene.
Court records show that 3 men sued the Mean Girls star last week. Their allegations include battery, false imprisonment, and negligence. They claim that she commandeered an SUV belonging to one of the men to chase her recently fired assistant.
She was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol. Also in her pocket was a small amount of cocaine, so she was also charged with possession of a controlled substance.
Lindsay stood before a judge and pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges. The sentence? 1 day in jail, 10 days of community service, and 3 years of probation. She'd been caught. She'd been punished. For most people, that's rock bottom. But for Lindsay, it was just the beginning.
It was scary at first, but it didn't really hit me, so no.
Yeah. Scary, you would have preferred not to have been caught, but it didn't say, okay, I'm not gonna do that again.
Right, because I'm an addict.
Over the next couple of years, Lindsay failed to meet the terms of her sentence. And on the day that mattered most, the day that could decide her future, she didn't even show.
Why do you think it would be more important to party in Cannes than go to your hearing?
I wasn't partying in Cannes. I was there for work.
Are you scared you will go to prison?
I don't see what reason I would go to prison for. I've been more than in compliance with everything having to do with the court system. I don't see why I would have to go to prison, and the only person that's ever suggested anything like that is my father.
A lot of people blame you, the parents, for what's happened to Lindsay. What do you say to that?
Justifiably, no doubt, 100%. Dina and I are responsible.
Police on New York's Long Island say Lindsay Lohan's father has been arrested and charged with criminal contempt for allegedly violating an order of protection. According to Newsday, his ex-wife Dina Lohan had a restraining order against him dating back to 2005.
Lindsay Lohan's mom was indeed arrested for driving under the influence last night in Long Island, New York. And you guys, her blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit.
Do you feel like you grew up in a broken home? But how do you think of how you grew up?
It was, we could have 5 cars and everything that we wanted and a beautiful home. And then when was it gonna, within a 3-month span, I'm like, oh, just waiting for dad to up and not come home for 3 nights again. The first day of filming Parent Trap in LA, my dad came to see me.
I love to act. I mean, when I grow up, I want to be like Jodie Foster and go to a good college and act and direct.
And then 2 feds walked in and cuffed him and put him in the car. When I was doing Freaky Friday, that was a time when like I kind of made the decision when I started staying at the Four Seasons, and Dad actually was then back and walked into his room and he was doing drugs with this guy, and I just freaked out.
So things started to go wrong when you moved to California at 18 years old and you're making millions of dollars and you were surrounded by other people who don't necessarily have your best interest, and you had nobody to guide you. Who's helping you invest your money, or who's helping you decide?
Yeah, that wasn't happening.
That was not happening.
Lindsay's parents were far from stable. Her father was in and out of jail, her mother blurred the line between parent and party friend, and their toxic relationship played out in the tabloids for the world to see.
Dina's accused Michael of cheating and abuse, even raping her while the children slept.
I have police reports, I have hospital records, I have pictures of, the black eyes.
He denies that, says she has unresolved issues with alcohol and is an unfit mom.
Lindsay said mommy's been doing cocaine, she's acting like the devil.
Digging up old wounds for anyone is difficult, and we did get divorced for a reason.
Unable to rely on her parents, Lindsay found herself alone in LA with no one to turn to.
I'm a little overwhelmed and stressed, but I'm breathing.
Lindsay Lohan has been hospitalized.
This is not Lohan's first hospitalization, and she told Billy of her 2004 hospital stay that asthma was only part of the problem.
I was tired. I was having a bunch of asthma attacks that led up to that. And there was just, I was going through a time when I was just overscheduling myself and not taking the time for myself. And instead of resting sometimes, I would want to go out and hang out with my friends and go to a club, which probably wasn't the best thing to do.
She did admit that she has done drugs, but when we really got into talking about specifics, she became extremely rattled about it. It's obviously a very touchy subject for her.
Lindsay tried to hold it together, showing up, smiling, and pushing through. But behind the scenes, she was unraveling, and there was one person who understood exactly what she was going through.
And there's Jamie. Hi, Nancy Lohan.
You're the young Jedi, Lindsay. And you're my Padawan learner, and I'm the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the movie. I will teach you all your lessons that the Jedi leader, or whatever his name. What are you talking? You don't have to teach you things. You're young, inexperienced.
She's a lot like me in a lot of ways, so it's kind of scary.
Really?
So when we do play each other, it's not as hard as you would think it is because we're so similar in so many ways.
But little did Lindsay know, she would end up like Jamie in ways she never expected.
I had been nursing a secret Vicodin addiction for a very long time, over 10 years. I was in a good, stable marriage, writing books for children that were bestsellers. I was getting more and more work and more fame and attention and adulation, even though I was fabulous. You're in a prison of your own mind. A Brazilian healer woman, she had been staying with us. And I was in my kitchen, and I had a pocket full of Vicodin. I had a glass of wine on the counter, and I pocketed 5 of them, put them in my mouth, took a swig of wine, and from behind me, I heard this. Jamie, I see you. I see you with your little pills, and you think you're so fabulous and so great, but the truth is you're dead.
Jamie knew the struggles Lindsay was going through, but Lindsay's prison wasn't just in her head. When she finally arrived back in America after missing her court date, the consequences were waiting.
30 days in jail on the reckless driving case, 30 days in jail on the first DUI case consecutive, and 30 days in jail on the second DUI case consecutive. That's 90 days in jail. Within 2 days of her release from jail, she's ordered to report to probation, and she's ordered to do a 90-day inpatient substance abuse program. I also want the doctor to interview her and determine if drinking alcohol and the prescription drug medications she's taking will cause her injury and compromise her health and safety.
2 weeks later, Lindsay found herself in handcuffs being processed into prison. She was sentenced to 90 days, but walked out after just 14. And almost immediately, she set out to prove she'd changed.
I was actually in solitary confinement for 14 days.
And is that to keep you away from the... Is that to keep you away...
Solitary confinement's very different. You leave yourself for 1 hour a day and you don't go outside.
But is that a good...
And I don't think anyone knows that, but it's very... I was in... The other girls in the other cells were in there for murder. I made a mistake. I went to a club, and then I drank and I drove home, and that's not the right thing to do. But to put someone in that position it was very scary. It was very jarring. I finally had silence in my life.
So it was good for you in some ways?
As terrified as I was, and as scared as I was, I finally felt like I didn't have to answer to anyone. I didn't have to do anything for anyone.
Oh, so it was in a way a good thing then?
2 days would have been enough.
Now to the latest trouble for star Lindsay Lohan. She was arrested early Thursday morning here in New York, and she may now be facing new charges in California.
Lindsay Lohan has run into trouble again, literally. The actress was arrested outside of this New York nightclub early Wednesday morning. Police charged her with leaving the scene of an accident and causing injury.
How many times does she get the benefit of the doubt? Or is this just a case of a woman with extraordinary bad luck? Where she goes, people somehow walk toward her car or drive toward her car.
With Lindsay, in my next life, I want to come back as Lindsay Lohan, because in her, no legal problems or, whatever issues she has stick.
She's got to get into a program. She's a drug addict. This kid needs help.
Lindsay was sent to rehab, but just days after her release, she was thrust back into the spotlight. Oprah hired a team to document and help Lindsay with her sobriety, but it soon became clear it wasn't the comeback everyone was expecting.
At a call time for 11.
Yeah.
It is now 1:18. We have a time set to shoot, and we're shooting usually 2 hours, 3 hours later, and there's always these excuses.
This is exactly what everybody said was going to happen, and I believe differently. So we'll go and figure out if she's willing to commit to doing it the way it has to be done. You got a whole team of people who are relying on you right now for this particular experience, for creating this documentary.
Yeah, it's weird to film things that are going on, I'm just not used to it.
I believe that you believe that this is your time to turn this around for yourself. I believed you when you told me that.
It is.
Okay, if that is the case, then you are not gonna be f***ing up. And so you need to cut the bullshit, you really do.
Okay.
Just cut the bullshit.
Okay.
As filming continued and the demands of the show grew, it became clear it was doing more harm than good.
When we were at dinner the other night, your mom told me that you had been drinking.
This is something that I don't feel comfortable discussing on camera. And yeah, I screwed up. I had a glass of wine. My struggle has been the fact that I signed up for something to just be, a camera just be there, not a reality show. I thought I could handle it more, and I can't, in terms of coming straight out of treatment and starting a show right away. Instead of feeling so pressured into just saying yes and listening to everyone and making everyone happy, I should have been like, you know what? I need a little more time. I'm feeling a little bit like I'm slipping and it's scaring me.
When the show ended, there was no happy ending for Lindsay. She had been exposed, raw and unraveling for the world to see. There was no comeback, no new roles, no fresh start. So Lindsay packed up her life and disappeared. As the world moved on from Lindsay, Jamie stepped forward with her own story.
I went to a friend of mine, and we both had kids the same age, and finally, was able to say that I had a problem with Vicodin. And she looked at me and said, yeah, I know, me too. Isn't it amazing? And she gave me, at that moment, the number of a doctor who would write you script. That night, I had a moment of clarity which saved my life, which is simply this. I imagined that she would die, and I would attend her funeral, and I would hug her children, and I would have blood on my hands. Or I would die, and she would attend my funeral, and she would hug my children with blood on her hands. And in that moment, I understood that it was going to kill me. I was terrified about being a public figure and walking into recovery centers and being around recovery, and I was terrified of it.
I talk to people all day long about addiction because it is not if it's a secret, it will kill you. If it's not a secret, you may be able to save your own life.
I'm sober today. Am I going to be sober for the rest of my life? I hope so. I'm going to do everything I can to be. But I'm saying I am an addict. I'm in recovery. I'm not recovered, never will be, but I am working on it.
So what would you tell yourself before you had embarked on the process of sobriety?
You know what? The truth of the matter is, nobody is ready until they're ready. Nobody can hear things until they're ready to hear them.
After years of hiding from Hollywood, Lindsay finally came back into the spotlight, with Jamie once again by her side.
I'm most impressed she moved to Dubai by herself for 5 years. Right. I kept thinking she had met her husband there, and I said, oh, did your husband take you to Dubai? And she said, no, I went there on my own. I needed to get out of New York. I'd been there for work. She did humanitarian work there. That to me made me go, oh, I get it. Yeah. She needed to find her.
Yeah.
Like she had to step out of it until she realized she missed it. And now she's back with a vengeance.
Although Lindsay no longer speaks publicly about her recovery journey, one thing is clear. She finally has the right person in her corner.
I would like to say I'm a solid person, and we have been intimate with each other. What we've shared, the personal stuff, like who do you go to with that stuff? And particularly for a young woman, I would hope she would come to her movie mom and say, hey, this is happening, or what do you think I should, this is what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. And then I'm not going to give her advice, but I'm certainly going to listen, and that's just friendship. We all would like to go back to our 15-year-old self, and we'd all say, lighten up, it's going to be okay, you're beautiful, you're going to have a happy life. We all would like to go back to our 15-year-old selves and give ourselves a hug
and say it's going to be okay. Everybody walked through glass, broken glass and fire in their adolescence. It's the process of human evolution. It's a difficult time. And so the message I would give you, me, and anybody who's watching this anywhere in the world is you're going to be okay.